How do you set a stop loss correctly? I feel like a lot of new traders, they have a lot of issues with setting stop losses the correct way. And because they do it wrong, they fuck up their risk to reward ratio a lot. And here in this video, I'm just going to show you a very straightforward guide to setting your stop loss in the most optimal way possible. So let's get to the charts here. All right, guys. So I'm going to be using my trade here in CAD Yen that I documented live while I was going to Istanbul. And you guys can watch the vlog right here. I'm going to try to put up a link to that video. And I'm going to use this trade as an example of how we set the correct stop loss so that we can magnify our wins whenever we do get the direction correct. Just getting straight into this now. In my strategy, I trade continuation patterns, right? And this is one of those continuation patterns. How do we set a stop loss correctly? And you can apply this to any strategy, right? If you're trading a different strategy from mine, that's completely fine. So number one is understanding your invalidation level, okay? What does that mean, right? In this case, my invalidation is here. And why is it there? It's because this continuation structure has completed, right? And it's now given me my entry criteria, which means I'm allowed to enter my trade here, right? So I put my entry above my entry criteria, and then I get tagged in. Now, I set my stop loss a few pips below the lows of my entry criteria because this should never break. If I'm correct in my trade, this should never ever break down. And if it does, that's where I want to get out of my trade ASAP, right? In other words, there's no point holding the trade here. And this brings us to point number one. That's really important, which is you don't want to be hoping whenever you're in a trade. If you find yourself feeling hope, thinking like, oh, maybe it'll turn around, you know, maybe I should just give it some more space, maybe I should just delete my stop loss and wait for it to turn around. Guys, I'm just going to get straight to the point. That is a losing mentality. It will never work. So if you guys can just stop doing that ASAP, it'll be good for you. So to recap, you have to know where your invalidation levels are. Now, depending on the strategy, obviously I can't tell you what your invalidation level is, right? Unless you're trading the same strategy I am, where I can teach you where it is. But you can find it out for yourself through your own back testing, through gathering a lot of data to know what does an invalidation level mean, right? Essentially, it's a level where if price hits it, your trade is extremely likely to not work out anymore, okay? There's always that point, guys. So just know there will always be an invalidation level for any strategy. And your job is to try to find that invalidation level, okay? You have to know where the point is in your trade where it's extremely likely to not work anymore. Now, do you want to be setting your stop loss right on the lows? Like for example, this is my invalidation level, right? So would I want to set my stop right there? No, okay? You want to give it a few pips of breathing room just in case price does puke back down here to the lows before it comes up, because that definitely happens, right guys? So we don't have to be too greedy in our stop loss placement by placing it right on the lows. Now, the final point here is just that you don't want to be setting your stop loss too far from your invalidation level either, because that hurts your risk to reward ratio, right? In other words, the larger your stop loss is, the smaller your reward will be. So the idea is that we want to have the smallest stop loss possible in order to have the largest reward if we are correct in the trade. But at the same time, we do not want to be setting our stop loss right on the lows, because then our risk of getting tagged out for a loss prematurely before price does play out in our favor becomes too high. And we don't want that to happen either. So we want to find that golden mean, that balance, right? That sweet spot where we give a few pips of breathing room from the invalidation level, but we also don't want to give it too much, right? And so the guideline is usually anywhere between 2 to 3 pips off your invalidation level is a great way to have your stop loss. And that's it, guys. Really. If you have any other questions, you want me to get deeper into this, please leave them in the comments. But the reason I want to be just super straightforward here is I just want to give you just legitimate answers in the shortest time possible so I don't waste your time, you know? Awesome. I'll see you guys in the next video.